Welcome to the greatest common factor and solving equations using the greatest common factor. As a reminder, to determine the greatest common factor for a given polynomial, for example, you're first looking at the coefficients inside of this polynomial. Our coefficients are 1 and 4. And you're asking yourself, what is the number that divides both 1 and 4? This number is 1. And then you're looking at the exponents of the variables. Here you have a 2 and a 1. And into your greatest common factor, you include the variable with the smaller one of the given exponents. So in our case is x to the power of 1. Once you determine the greatest common factor, you open a set of parentheses and you describe what happens with 1x squared if it gets divided by 1x to the first. And then you will describe what happens with 4x to the first if that gets divided by 1x to the first. So 1x to the second divided by 1x to the first. 1x to the second divided by 1x to the first. Well, of course, 1 by 1 is just 1, or you can cancel them. And x squared over x to the first, you subtract the exponents to get x to the first, or simply x. So that is if you divide the first term by your GCF and you place that right after you have your parentheses open. So you have your x here. Repeat the sign, so plus. And then we will be dividing 4x to the first by 1x to the first. 4x to the first divided by 1x to the first. 4 divided by 1 is 4, and x to the first divided by x to the first is x to the power of 0, or you could just say they cancel, so it's just a 4 plus 4. Now, be mindful that this coefficient of 1 and this exponent of 1, you don't have to write them. You can just write x plus 4, and that's the factored form of this binomial. To check this work, you can simply distribute this x back inside and see if you get what you started from. So x times x is x squared, and x times 4 is 4x, and that is in fact this x squared and this 4x. So we did the factoring correctly. What we can use this factoring for is solving equations with factoring. So instead of just asking you to factor, some of the questions will ask you to solve. Here's one example. You have x squared plus 4x equals to 0. It's clearly an equation. And notice that you cannot solve it like we are used to solving equations by simply getting the x by itself, because you cannot combine these two x's and consolidate them into one because they're not like terms. The only way for you to solve these equations is to factor. If you're solving equations with factoring, you're going to first make sure that the equation has nothing but a 0 on the right side. If you don't have a 0, which I'll show you the example where you don't have a 0 on that right side, make sure that you first create that 0 on the right side and then you're ready to factor and solve. But this equation does have a 0, so we're ready to go ahead and factor. Well, we know how this left side here factors because we just factored it. It's x times x plus 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and write that as x times x plus 4 equals to 0. Now to solve this, you're going to take each factor, which you have two factors. The first factor is the GCF that you pulled, which is x. And the second factor is your set of parentheses x plus 4. So you're going to take one at a time and separately set each equal to 0. So you're going to write x equals to 0, and this is your first answer. Your first x is 0. And then you're going to write x plus 4 equals to 0. Now this is not finalized. You still have to move the 4 to the other side to get your second answer. But that's simple. We just move it through subtraction, and we get x equals negative 4. So this equation has two answers, a 0 and a negative 4. Here's another example, number 2. And this one here is x squared equals negative 2x. Notice you cannot consolidate these two x's, and not only because they're on opposite sides of the equal sign, they're also not like terms. So you're going to have to solve this with factoring. To be able to solve it with factoring, you will have to make a 0 where you currently have a negative 2x. So that negative 2x needs to travel to the left. Since it's crossing the equal sign, it will become a positive 2x on the left. And since it's not going to be on the right side anymore, that's where you have that 0. So x squared plus 2x equals to 0. Now we factor. The greatest common factor for 1 and 2 is 1. The greatest common factor for x squared and x to the power of 1 is the x with the smaller exponent, so x to the power of 1. Now let's describe what's left inside. If you divide 1x squared by 1x to the first, that's x. And if you divide 2x to the first by the same 1x to the first, you get a positive 2. And that's equal to 0. I will clean it up a little bit. I will remove my green circle, and I will also remove this exponent of 1, we don't need it, and this 1. So you got your two factors, your x and your x plus 2, and you set each equal to 0. So your x is 0. That's your first answer. And then x plus 2 equals to 0 creates the answer of negative 2. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, there are a few questions that you will see that are already factored for you. For example, this question is already factored. You have your first factor of x and then your second factor of x minus 7. Do not distribute the x because it's counterproductive in this case. This equation is set up for you to make every factor equal to 0. So you make your x equal to 0 and your x minus 7 equals to 0, which creates the x that is a 7. Those are your two answers.